Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari.
Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari.
Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari.
Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari.
Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari.
Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari.
Yasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana.
Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana.
Yasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana.
Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana.
Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Girdhari Radha Girdhari Radhe. Jaya Radha Girdhari Radha Girdhari Radhe. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Shila Prabhupada ki Jai Vishwat Paramhamsa Prabhupada Sotora Satra Shishimash A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
ISKCON founder Charya Jagat Guru Shila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Grantaraj srimadbhagavatam ki
Jai.
Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki
Jai.
Gaur Premanandi.
Hari Hari Bol.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled
Hare
devotees.
Krishna.
All glories to the assembled
Hare
devotees.
Krishna.
All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga.
All
Glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Today we're getting to hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 22, Marriage of Karda Mumuni and Devahuti, text number 35. Ayatayamas tasyasam.
Ayatayamas
Yama Swantarayapanaha.
Yama Swantarayapana.
Srinvato Dhyayato Vishnu.
Srinvato Dhyayato Vishnu.
Purvato Bruvata Katha.
Purvato Bruvata Katha.
Ayata Yamastasyasan.
Ayata Yamastasyasan.
Yama Swantarayapanaha.
Yama Swantarayapana.
Srinvato Dhyayato Vishnu.
Srinvato Dhyayato Vishnu.
Purvato Bruvata Katha.
Purvato Bruvata Katha.
Ayata Yamastasyasan.
Ayata Yamastasyasan.
Yamak Swantadayapana.
Yama Swantarayapana.
Srinvato Dhyayato Vishnu.
Srinvato Dhyayato Vishnu.
Kurvato Bravatakata.
Kurvato Bruvata
Ayata Yamastasyasan.
Ayata Yamastasyasan.
Yama Swantadayapana.
Yama Swantarayapana.
Srinvato Dhyayato Vishnu.
Srinvato Dhyayato Vishnu.
Kurvato Bruvata Katha.
Ayata Yamastasyasan.
Ayata Yamastasyasan.
Yamaswantarayapanaha.
Yama Swantarayapana.
Srinvato Dhyayato Vishnu.
Srinvato Dhyayato Vishnu.
Kurvato Bruvataskataha.
Kurvato Bruvata Katha.
Ayata Yamastasyasan.
Ayata Yamastasyasan.
Yama Swantarayapanaha.
Yama Swantarayapana.
Srinvato Dhyayato Vishnu.
Srinvato Dhyayato Vishnu.
Purvato Bruvata Kataha.
Kurvato Bruvata Katha.
Ayata Yamastasyasan.
Ayata Yamastasyasan.
Yama Swantarayapanaha.
Yama Swantarayapana.
Srinvato Dhyayato Vishnu.
Srinvato Dhyayato Vishnu.
Purvato Bruvata Kataha.
Kurvato Bruvata Katha. Ayata
Ayata
Yama.
Yama.
Time never lost.
Time never lost.
Tasya
Tasya
of Manu.
Apana.
Asan.
Asan.
Word.
Word.
Yama.
Yama.
The hours.
The hours.
Swantara
Svantara
is duration of life.
is the duration of life.
What does Nirantara mean?
Nirantara, no end.
Nirantara Prabhu Ki.
Jaya.
Yapana.
Yapana.
Bringing to an end.
Bring me to an end.
Srinvataha.
Srinvataha.
Hearing.
Hearing.
Jayataha.
Vyayataha.
Contemplating.
Contemplating.
Vishnu.
Vishnu.
Of Lord Vishnu.
Of Lord Vishnu.
Kurvataha.
Purvataha.
Acting.
Acting.
Bruvataha.
Pruvataha.
Speaking.
Speaking.
Kataha.
Katha.
The topics.
Topics.
Translation. Consequently, let's read the verse before, because thus Swayambhuva Mahanu was a saintly king. Although absorbed in material happiness, he was not dragged to the lowest grade of life, for he always enjoyed his material happiness in a Krishna conscious atmosphere. Today's verse. Consequently, although his duration of life gradually came to an end, his long life, consisting of a Manvantara era, was not spent in vain, since he ever engaged in hearing, contemplating, writing down, and chanting the pastimes of the Lord. Please repeat. Consequently, although his duration of life
Although his duration of life
gradually came to an end,
gradually came to an end,
his long life,
his long life,
consisting of a Manvantara era,
consisting of a Manvantara era,
was not spent in vain,
was not spent in vain,
since he was ever engaged in hearing,
since he was ever engaged in hearing,
contemplating, writing down,
contemplating, writing down,
and chanting the pastimes of the Lord.
and chanting the pastimes of the Lord.
Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jaya.
As freshly prepared food is very tasteful, but if kept for 3 or 4 hours, becomes stale and tasteless. So the existence of material enjoyment can endure as long as life is fresh. But at the fag end of life, everything becomes tasteless, and everything appears to be vain and painful. The life of Emperor Swayambhuva Manu, however, was not tasteless, As he grew older, his life remained as fresh as in the beginning because of his continued Krishna consciousness. The life of a man in Krishna consciousness is always fresh. It is said that the sun rises in the morning and sets in the evening, and its business is to reduce the duration of everyone's life. But the sunset and sunrise cannot diminish the life of one who engages in Krishna consciousness. Swayambhuva Manu's life did not become stale after some time, for he engaged himself always in chanting about and meditating upon Lord Vishnu. He was the greatest yogi because he never wasted his time. It's especially mentioned here, Vishnu, Kurva, To, Bhuvata, Kata. When he talked only of Krishna and Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. When he heard something, it was about Krishna. When he meditated, it was upon Krishna and his activities. It's stated that his life was very long, 71 yugas. One yuga is completed in 4,320,000 years. 71 of such yugas is the duration of life, of the life of a Manu. And 14 such Manus come and go in one day of Brahma. For the entire duration of his life, 4,320,000 years times 71, Manu engaged in Krishna consciousness by chanting, hearing, talking about, and meditating upon Krishna. Therefore his life was not wasted, nor did it become stale. We could chant together for mercy. Om Jnana-timirandasya Hiranjana Salakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Ayam Rupa Mayam Vidati Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vikam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Putale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine Vanchakapatubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. First thing, 4,320,000 times 71 years is almost 307 million years. It's 306,700,000 years. It's a pretty long life. And that's the way it seems when you're young men. Man, I got forever. It's a long life ahead of me. Why? Because I still have strength in my senses. My mind is lashing me on. You can enjoy. You got power. You got influence. You've got so many good things going for you. This Krishna consciousness, I'm not so sure. Who's cooking today?
They're listening.
Okay. And is Bhakti Marquis helping them?
Yes, this day.
Okay. All glories to the cooks. Thank you, Prabhus. So, the mind gives us so much trouble. And we tend to believe it in youth. Why? Because we can enjoy it appears. But take it from Dravida Prabhu, myself, or any of our God brothers and sisters. Srila Prabhupada is not exaggerating or minimizing the reality when he says life becomes stale and tasteless. It becomes vain and painful the older the body gets. The Karmis, they haven't a clue about this. Wow, you don't want to take food more than 3 hours old. Everything they eat is dead, nutritionless, and tasteless, really. Fast food, packaged food, etc. They don't have a clue about this standard. The ideal is you cook enough for everybody, but not too much so that prasadam isn't wasted. But the reality is prasadam is worshipable, and if offered should be honored no matter how old it is. Even if a dog is eaten off that plate, that prasadam is not contaminated and has the potency to help the dog and the tiger that attacks you after having honored the dog's remnants and the tiger that kills and eats you. That's the potency of Mahaprasadam. So Srila Prabhupada's talking about ordinary food. Mode of ignorance destroys everything, along with the time element. And we'll touch on both, hopefully. So anyway, take it from me. You won't remain immortal feeling forever. While you have a chance, I read yesterday the 64 limbs of devotional service. In the last 34, dancing before the deity is one of them. Ask Prabhu and myself, while you can, take advantage of that opportunity to please the Lord. It's one of the joyful ways of serving Krishna, of becoming purified. Dancing before the deity. What's the difficulty? Once again, that mind. I got something else to think about. My body is... Okay, we understand the body is an anchor. It's a corpse, actually. And only by the potency of the spirit soul is it able to move an inch. And only by the grace of Krishna can we become unfettered long enough to get caught up in the joy of chanting Krishna's names, forgetting the corpse, the weight of the anchor-like body. And sometimes we can get caught up in the chanting and dancing of Hare Krishna. Don't think that this will not take you back to Godhead. It will. My point to you young men, use it or lose it. Prabhu used to be able to dance like a madman. This now is just a few little jerks.
No, you're not slowed up that much.
You may think so. I know so. I remember Gunagrahi Prabhu, Maharaj. Oh, some kirtans, You'd have wings of Gandharvas chanting, dancing. You have that opportunity now. Try and take advantage of it. Those of us who are aging, cut us a little bit of slack because it's not so easy. That's the first point. The end of life, fag end, everything becomes tasteless, appears to be vain and painful. But now we come to Krishna consciousness. Even when one is on the deathbed and the body is completely useless, one can be totally absorbed in the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness. There is no obstruction to pleasing Krishna if you want to. And as amazing as this sounds, there's even a one-liner by Srila Prabhupada that there are no unfavorable conditions for practicing Krishna consciousness. That's for one who is actually Krishna conscious. When we say actually Krishna conscious, let's start from the very beginning. Unless one is following the four regulative principles, there's no actual advancement in Krishna consciousness. Time, rising of the sun, setting the sun, it takes away the duration of life of everybody, except those who are utilizing their time in hearing and chanting the topics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in the purport 2.3.17, Srila Prabhupada says, in the association of pure devotees. Time doesn't steal away Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is spiritual. Any pleasure and gratitude that the spiritual master feels in your feeble, faulty, limited attempt at pleasing him and serving the Lord is an eternal asset. And it comes back multifold, multiplied many times over. We're rewarded with eternal benefit, eternal service, and the association of the Lord and His associates for simply trying to give this one life to Guru, Vaishnavas, and Krishna's service. One is meant to chant at least 16 rounds. I hope everybody here is chanting their rounds early as possible and attentively as possible. That is how we do not waste our time. If nothing else, you can always hear, chant, or think, remember about the holy names, about Krishna. And even if that gets taken away from you, because you're lying there like a lump of dead wood, in a coma, etc. That was a description of the body. And many a times people have come out of comas by the potency of chanting Hare Krishna. I've seen it with my own eyes. Written off for dead by a doctor and nurse, etc., etc. And saw the devotee come back to external consciousness, hearing the names of Krishna chanting. Family was shocked. They couldn't believe him, began chanting with so much renewed enthusiasm. Oh my God, our mother, our wife is coming back. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Quality to the chanting. That's the challenge. We have this idea. Time is not to be wasted. Srila Prabhupada said, I did not waste a single moment. That's a symptom of one who's very elevated in Krishna consciousness. They're very concerned. They actually have anxiety that they not waste their time. Not a moment should be lost. Every moment should be utilized for Krishna or connected with Him. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, one has to tolerate all the obstacles on the path of Krishna consciousness. And one has to see that not a moment of his life is wasted outside of Krishna's service. The mind tries to convince us, I'm fried, it's so difficult, so let me try something else. Let me just jump out of the pool for a while. Let me distract myself with some nonsense that I remember gave me pleasure, apparently, many years ago or some time back. That's what Maya is always trying. Come on. Back. Come on, forget it. Come on. She's very good at her service. And we have to be very serious about our attempts to engage in the service of Guru and Krishna. If we are, then we're protected. That's the way it works. Life does not become stale. When this line that Srila Prabhupada says, Manoha, however, his life was not tasteless. As he grew older, his life remained as fresh as in the beginning because of his continued Krishna consciousness. At that point, we can expand it just a little bit. Continued and ever expanding, blissful Krishna consciousness. It only gets better. The hump is becoming fixed. The speed bump in the road that we have to somehow or other get over around the obstacle is wasting time, not serving Krishna. When one becomes fixed and one is attempting his full day to serve Krishna, hear of Krishna, talk of Krishna, remember Krishna, when one becomes fixed, then it only becomes easier. When the spiritual master sees this is the mood of a sincere devotee, then he blesses him. He blesses her. And with the blessings of Guru, everything is possible. Then you realize material sense gratification, there's not even a matter of contemplating. Wasting time, how could I do that? Yesterday or Sunday, I made mention of Jayananda Prabhu as an example of one who was humble, and one other quality I forget right now. Today, in terms of not wasting time, I'll mention another Prabhu. Are you going to be able to hear? Sit up or stand up. You may not have even heard of him, some of you Prabhus, but I encourage you to Google him. Look up Tribhuvanath. Tribhuvanath. He's a godbrother of ours that passed away 15, 16 years ago. According to the words of Tamal Krishna Goswami, he was the most popular devotee in all of the UK. There's a quote of his, he said, "I hate sleep. I hate to sleep." His Prabhu's, his thing was festivals. Prabhupada he set up a festival in London for Srila Prabhupada or more. Actually, it might have been outside London. I didn't get to read it, but I remember from memories. Prabhupada was so pleased with the festival, and he blessed him. And he wrote him a letter later on, yes, continue putting on these festivals for spreading Krishna consciousness. And that was his ticket. That was his personal instruction. And he dedicated his life in that way. And he didn't do it in the comfort zone of London. He went to the Middle East in a Muslim country. I forget specifically which one. He was captured and for months was in jail because they thought he, was a foreign agent or something. He was certainly a heathen. What is this? What were you doing chanting? What is this? He went to Africa, not South Africa, the comfort zone of Durban. He went to like Uganda and all these countries in the middle of Africa. And his crew would ask him, be afraid. And he said, don't worry, we'll just go and attract them with prashadam. And don't worry if they're angry or threatening. Krishna will protect. And the devotees glorifying him. I mean, there was Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Shiva Ram Swami, Kavachandra Swami, Jayadvaita Swami. I mean, he was a real devotee. Jayadvaita Swami in Bhagavatam class, you should take sannyas, because he was a soldier for Krishna, going to the front lines, giving Krishna indiscriminately to anyone and everyone, the opportunity to chant, to take prashadam, to dance, etc. So back to sleep. The devotees wouldn't, everybody else is going to sleep dead dog tired after a long day of service. And they could put, Jabhuvanath, come on, come to sleep. And he said, no, I got some rounds to chant. Well, he chanted all his rounds in the morning. Well, how many rounds you chant? Oh, 20, maybe 25. And the Prabhu said, no, there's no way. The time he was spending in chanting, this is an example how you don't waste time. If you are unengaged in services, and you can't bring your mind to hearing or reading the scripture, and you don't have direct service that's been given to you, or you can't stretch your imagination to see how something could be done for the pleasure of the Lord in Radhagiri Hari's temple, etc., then chant Hare Krishna. Don't waste time. Chanting is the goal, to always remember Krishna, which is the highest principle in the scripture. Never forget him. Srila Prabhupada in the purport says that so one should chant 24 hours a day. And it all begins with the minimum 16 rounds. Prabhupada would always say minimum 16 rounds. That's to just show our, what do you say, in poker you got to have there's a certain an ante. If you don't have the ante, you don't get in the game. If you don't chant minimum 16 rounds, you're not showing that your seriousness and your determination has come to a point where, yes, I want to go back home to Godhead. You haven't quite got there. And all encouragement and all glories, if you're on a level less than that, keep at it. In time, you can come to it. If you're not envious of the standards set by Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. So, they would say, come to bed. No, I have some rounds chanting. He said he'd sleep on the floor. That wasn't the question. Usually they said he slept in a chair. He could sleep on the stairs, Berry Place, that small temple, 4 or 5 stories high. Sometimes he'd sleep on the stairs. He said, I hate sleep. It's like dying, actually. I hate it. One time, he came back from Africa. Late at night, he arrived at the temple. And it was a huge storm. He got up 2 or 3 hours later from Mongol Arctic. And I don't know what the devotees had been doing, but they also were similarly tired. And so, everybody was there in the temple chanting Hare Krishna. That was always the standard. That's old school, and that's the standard Prabhupada encouraged. Come together and chant. And, after 2 or 3 hours, jet lag, etc., his body did not want to stay awake, period. So he went outside this gust windstorms blowing, for just incredibly strong storm. And he went out and chanted his rounds, walking in that storm so he could stay awake. And then when he came back, got time for Guru Puja, unbeknownst to him, the devotees, maybe they had had a festival or they were all, late night before, and a number of them had given up and they'd gone to take rest. And even though this Prabhu had so many of the qualities like we hear in Jayananda Prabhu or Vishnu Jan, etc., Swami, etc., this is one time that he became angry. And he went waking up all the devotees. He said, "Wake up! You lazy heads!" He never did like this. His style was not chastising people, it was encouraging people. Everybody loved this man. He was like them. He was one of them. He did not put on airs. He did not expect special treatment or service. He was the humble servant of his spiritual master and everyone else. But he was furious. He said, "Wake up, you lazy heads!" He said, "Don't make a mockery of Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON. Get up." He said, "If you can't get up, you don't want to get up. If you want to make a mockery of it, go and become a karmi. But be a good karmi. Don't even be a lazy head out there either." Nobody had ever seen him like that. He was so... He used his anger in the service of his spiritual master. One time that people saw him get angry. Otherwise, he tolerated all of these things. They couldn't believe it. They'd be in anxiety out in the middle of Africa. The bus breaks down. What are we going to do? Where are we going to eat? Where are we going to get money for gas? He said, "Krishna has a plan." That was his mantra. Krishna has a plan. Don't worry. All these things are interrelated. If you don't waste time, that means you're engaged in Krishna service. When we say don't waste time, it doesn't, the mind might say, so save time. Save time for what? That's the question. But, it's like saving time doesn't mean that I don't have time for the devotees. Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajana Anukula Bhakata Seva Paramasiddhi Premalatikara Mula. The root of devotional service is association with devotees. What does that association mean? It means serving the devotees, serving with the devotees. What's the best and main service? Chanting and hearing together. Everything else is meant to bring us to that point. Hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord so we can always remember Him. So you don't say, it's me and my service. I don't have time for you. Mukunda Goswami said Srila Prabhupada had all the time in the world it seemed for the devotee. You came in front of him, he was concentrated. He was with you. Not on the smartphone, not thinking about, listening while doing something else. No. That's the point about Krishna consciousness. Whatever your service may be. We all talk about attentive chanting and hearing in Bhagavatam, etc., etc. You don't do other things while chanting. You don't do other things during Bhagavatam. Emergency services may be there. That's one thing. But on the norm, attentive chanting, it's the pure chanting. We can say at least the offenseless chanting. Bhagavatam, serving the deities, serving the devotees, or being in the holy Dham of this temple or Mayapur or Vrindavan. Offenseless execution of any of these can very quickly give Krishna consciousness. Not the mixed stuff, not the things where we're trying to cut corners. Maharaj talked about it the other day. Don't cut corners. The hatchet obeisances, or I can't make it to. When Krishna was coming to the city of Dwarka, and the citizens heard he was coming, what did they do? They ran to see Krishna. When Krishna comes home from herding the cows, the mother, the father, the elderly, and the gopis, what do? Hearing Krishna's coming, I can hear his flute. What do? They run to see Krishna. They're there before Krishna gets there. The neophyte doesn't understand. The morning program as given, the evening program, is the activities of the Mahabhagavats. It's what the exalted Prema Bhaktas do. And it's just been formalized for us so that we can move our corpse and hopefully drag the obstinate mind along with it. So we'll do the same things and become purified by doing it. Krishna. Enthusiastic even when you don't feel it. You know, it doesn't sound right, but it has such validity. You fake it till you make it. Krishna knows our heart. Guru said we should chant and dance. We try. We should hear attentively. Do your best. You know, that's the point. Do your best. That's what's expected of all of us. So many ways, get my rounds done, chanting fast and chopping the mantra up, not saying the whole mantra. Not wasting time doesn't mean cutting corners, thinking we know what's really important. Srila Prabhupada has made very clear what's important, and if we don't understand that, we have authorities that will share with us what we're meant to do. So, Krishna consciousness will only get better and better if we make attempts at following the example of Swayambhuva Manu or Sri Bhuvanath or any of these other wonderful devotees. In the beginning, not so easy, difficult, may even seem like poison. But trust those who are progressing along the way. Trust your own experiences and don't forget them. We've all tasted the bliss of Krishna consciousness. We have the ability. Now, one thought came to me this morning, and I could or should have said, well, today's not a festival. In the proper consciousness, what did Srila Prabhupada say?
Every day.
Every day is a festival. What do we do on festival days? We hear, we chant, we take prasadam, we talk about Krishna and his devotees. What are we doing today? Hearing, chanting, dancing, taking prasadam, talking about Krishna's devotees. When you're Krishna conscious, it's dynamic, it's exciting. And the fact that we don't feel that shows I've got to try harder. You never know when you round that corner when the mercy is just going to rain down upon you. You never know. It can be any mantra, it can be any morning, it can be any page you're reading upon where the curtains are parted. And generally it's like the teas we had that evening. I think it was Rupa Goswami. He would close the curtains and then he opened it once or twice for the pleasure of the Lord to see his devotees and for us to see the Lord. So it happens like that. It parts every once in a while. It's just to encourage us to surrender to the point in our day, in our activities. We act in such a way that Krishna will want to see us. That's the perfection. Those who are with the Lord, they only want to be with Him. Life, you cannot explain the suffering on the spiritual platform, which is ecstatic in itself, but appears like deadly poison. Are they suffering or are they in ecstasy? Gopakumar was trying to figure it out because simultaneously he was seeing it both. Inconceivable till we get there. But to be separated from Krishna, those in the spiritual world, let's keep it in Vrindavan, they are only trying and anxiously awaiting, doing all they can to be with Krishna. And of course that means serving Him. And then the separation just encourages the buildup of the emotion, the fervor, the excitement of the surrender and endeavor to please Krishna. So right now we're in the separation. If we're in the proper consciousness, we will be aware of that and we will do all we can to try and be blessed to be reunited with the Lord. He will appear in His names if we want Him to. We just have to show Him we want Him to. So, I think I will stop there. Are there any questions? Then I will ask you, okay, Balaram Prabhu.
I think Drew, could you answer?
I just have one comment,
Please.
and that is just amplifying what you said. We should always remember that it's almost like a body here, It's like the ashram. It's everything affects everything else. If your foot hurts, you can't be happy. That's where your mind is going. You know what I mean? And so the foot that needs to be taken care of, you have to take care of it. So similarly, if we're slacking off, that affects everybody. You know, I'm here for someone offered for the kirtans, you know. So you have, all right, we got 4 guys for the kirtan, you know. If 2 other Prabhus or anyone arrives and sings enthusiastically, it's more than just that percentage, you know.
When they were in Silicon Valley, we had some ecstatic kirtans. You remember?
Yes. So it's not just our own consciousness that we're working on. We're also in this tight-knit group working, helping or hurting everyone else's consciousness. We should be aware of that. It's an act of mercy on me to come
Thank
on
you.
time to the kirtan and be kirtan. So think about that.
And it behooves us to try our best to encourage each other. We can't take a whip and flog you. You're not going to flog me. That's not what we do. But if we set the example and someone tries to encourage us, don't listen to the mind. At least acknowledge and try your best to be enlightened. Shut the mind down. Say, okay, my Prabhu's dragging me. Because that's what the Vaishnavas do. That's what Guru does. For most of us, he's dragging us back to Godhead. Either voluntarily or by force. If you want to go back to Godhead, you're going to have to surrender. And Guru and Krishna within the heart, they will do what's necessary if you really want to go back. But when the Vaishnava is encouraging, then try to shut the mind down and accept that encouragement. It's really in everyone's best interest. Balaram Prabhu.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that statement you heard devotees quote, quoting Prabhupada about, you know, work now, samadhi later. And of course, you know, some people, they could quote things or misquote them or take them out of context like that. So some devotees, they would, you know, quote that in the sense, okay, work now, samadhi later means don't just, you know, run off and become a bhajanandi, you know, without the proper purification. And then some devotees would say, okay, well, how much later, you know, when is later? So maybe you could just explain that idea more, work now, samadhi later.
I'll try and be concise in what I want to say with the wonderful thought you brought up. And that is, whatever you're doing, the way you do rise above it, mechanically perform, is be aware that I'm trying to please Krishna. I'm playing mridanga to please Krishna. I'm singing and dancing to please Krishna. I'm washing pots. I'm bathing the Lord. I'm dressing Him. You can do any and all those activities in complete Maya. You can be touching the form of the Lord and be 100 miles away. It's all about your intent. Try to please Krishna. That's the and if you're trying to please Him, then you're so attentive to detail. Because I'm doing it to please Krishna. You don't slap something together. You don't just that kind of work brings samadhi very quickly. It is samadhi. You know, this hearing, he says he always talked about Krishna. I guarantee you he was talking about kingdom and duties and this and that. Prabhupada, with Swarup Damodar Prabhu at the time, said they don't know what kirtan is. They were talking about modern scientists' atheistic propaganda in defeating it with Krishna conscious philosophy. It wasn't, you know, it's time for evening arti. You want to come for Prabhupada? You want to have kirtan, Srila Prabhupada? They don't know what kirtan is. Book distribution, what is that? It's hearing and chanting. It's the same thing when you're Krishna conscious. You're remembering Krishna. You're thinking, this is Krishna's book, and this person needs Krishna. Am I right, Bhakta Chan? When you're Krishna conscious. When you just surrender. And when you surrender in your intent and your best efforts, then Guru, Krishna, they do everything. They empower us. We become an instrument. So this samadhi, you know, it's not a cheap thing. But if we take care today, it takes care of tonight. And if we take care of tonight properly, it was that managed lifestyle management that Devamrita Swami mentioned. And we've discussed it so many times. You know, morning after Nishinga Chaturdasi, I think we were all a little bit like, big feast late at night after fasting. Am I right? You know, that's the price you pay. You have to try even harder the next morning. But if you normally regulate yourself so you're not dealing with that issue, then you can get your sufficient rest and you can get up enlivened, ready. Lean into the rounds. Hare Krishna. With your mind, lean into them. You know, every mantra. It becomes exciting.